Gemma, first of all, I mean, what can be done?
Well, there is a very small window of opportunity with which to respond to this crisis. You know, we know that there's a terrible drought. We know that there are high numbers of children that are malnourished. In fact, mothers are bringing them to our clinics all over South Sudan, where I've recently returned from. And we have to really prioritise the most sick and the most hungry. You know, we're having to send away some mothers saying your child isn't sick enough to get the very limited number of food parcels that we have. So that's obviously devastating for the mothers and for any medic working in our hospitals. So with the recent DEC appeal, it was very successful. The British public have once again been unbelievably generous, and that money will start to go to buy medical supplies and to pay for the doctors that are working at our clinics all across South Sudan. So hopefully those children will be in a better position than they were, but there's still a long way to go because it is one of the worst droughts that the area has seen for years. And
we saw it in that report, didn't we? And Eid, you've got family living in Somaliland. Have you contacted them? Have you been able to talk to them, and how are they?
Yeah, I've got family, although they're not living in the rural area where the drought is affected directly, but in the drought is, as your reporter said, is impacting on the economy, because the Somaliland economy relies on 70% of livestock export. So in the Somaliland markets, as your reporter said, it's £80 per goat or the sheep if you want to buy a sheep. So therefore the meat will be expensive.
Yes.
And people will not be able to buy the meat. But also, yeah, we are at the brink of a famine. If the people of Somaliland were in the last 3 years actually struggling to actually prevent such a situation, and still actually raising funds from here in the UK and all over the world. In Somaliland, inside Somaliland, there is a national committee, Somaliland Drought National Committee, who raised about almost $5 million to actually buy some foods and other commodities to feed the people.
From what you're saying, I mean, people, as we saw there, in rural areas really affected. Your family, perhaps not in those areas, but everybody in the whole area is affected, because the price of meat goes up, doesn't it? I mean, you saw what happened in South Sudan. I mean, you said there's a small window. I mean, time-wise, I mean, how long are we talking here?
A number of weeks, and we're expecting the next rains in April, and really if those rains failed again, you'll have 4 consecutive harvests that have failed. So that's people that used to be able to grow their own crops and feed their families from that, and instead what they're resorting to doing is they're foraging in the forest for odd berries, some nuts that they could maybe eat. It means that the children aren't in school because they don't have time to go to school. They're literally foraging for leaves all day long.
They're just trying to stay alive.
They're digging for water. So yeah, the survival just, you know, the struggle for survival basically takes over your entire life. That's all you have time to do.
We heard that from Gemma. You're talking to your family. What do people need in Somaliland?
Yeah, the people need, it's an emergency actually in situation. So the people needs food in the first instance, medicine, because as you know, when the people get tired or weak physically, then they are at risk of disease and malnutrition, and that can cause really some unprecedented cases of disease outbreak. So really medicine, food, and whatever, and water.